The following event occurred on a day in Christ's earthly ministry. The place, Jerusalem. Feeling trapped and panicked, a helpless woman tried to free herself from the strong grasp around her arms. Intense shame enveloped her as she felt the eyes of people boring down on her. The scribes and Pharisees were prodding her through the streets towards the temple to be taken to Jesus. Her skin tingled and she cringed at the thought of her sure fate. Surely she would be stoned for having been caught in the act of adultery. What would Jesus say to her? She stumbled up the steps, feeling the pull at her arms. Spotting Jesus inside the temple, the scribes and Pharisees made their way to him and cast the adulteress before his feet. She lay before him trembling, in premonition of almost certain doom. Though the woman's name is never mentioned, this story, taken from John chapter 8, depicts that she was an adulteress. In other words, she was morally impure. Moral impurity is a rampant problem in our world today. As stated by one online source, the United States has the highest rate of teen pregnancies, births, and abortions among developed countries. Moral impurity is affected by the family and personal faith and instigates the majority of abortions in America. First of all, moral purity is contingent upon the family. The home is the place where a child must be trained in the way that he should go, so that when he is old, he will not depart from it. This does not mean that a child does not have personal responsibility for his actions. Because parents and children are sinful human beings, great problems will arise outside of God's grace. For example, Lot's two daughters both committed fornication with their father while he was drunk. Lot pitched his house in the wicked city of Sodom and did not restrain his children. He was even willing to give his two daughters to be corrupted by wicked men. It is crucial that moral purity be enforced in the home, both by words and actions. According to the contributors to socialissues.com, some researchers attribute the continuing high number of teenage pregnancies to a devaluing of marriage. Actions, by example, possess far more power than mere words. Teaching and enforcing moral values in the home is a tremendous responsibility of parents that should never be taken lightly. The children of today will one day be the parents of tomorrow. Second of all, moral purity is strongly contingent upon personal faith. A person's relationship to God determines his worldview, values, and morals. If someone believes in God, he will fear to do wrong, knowing that God judges wickedness. Joseph is a good biblical example of this truth. When Potiphar's wife tempted him to commit adultery, he immediately fled from her presence, desiring to remain morally pure. Joseph was a man who walked with God, seeking to keep himself undefiled. On the other hand, those who deny God's existence are essentially accountable to no one but themselves. Having no thought of eternal destination or future judgment, they live their lives as they please. In all reality, they lack true life purpose and fulfillment. Because they do not know the God of love, They try to fill this void with the fleeting love of human relationships as a substitute. Last of all, moral impurity has several negative consequences. According to Matthew chapter 5, verse 45, the Lord in his mercy will cause rain to fall on both the just and the unjust. Though the Lord is merciful, he will still hinder the prosperity of those who disobey him. David's sin with Bathsheba offers an excellent illustration of this truth. He committed adultery with her to satisfy his wicked lust. Attempting to cover his sin, he cleverly had Bathsheba's husband killed. In retribution, the sword would never depart from his house, and evil would come against him continually. Sin will bring dire consequences that affect multiple lives. More visible consequences of moral impurity are unwanted children, bad home situations, and widespread abortions. Frequently, two unmarried people seldom want the responsibility of raising a child, being young and immature. Even if they choose to keep the baby, they often do not love and care for it like they should. Repeatedly, unmarried parents of a child seek abortion as the easy way out of their problems. Millions of innocent babies are mercilessly murdered because of their parents' sin. Unmarried parents want a premarital relationship without others knowing. Essentially, they want the sin without its consequences, which is absolutely impossible. Having an abortion will only incur more consequences to pay. Moral impurity has affected the breakdown of society by directly attacking the home. So, what hope is there for someone who has already lost moral purity? The adulterous woman of the Bible found mercy with Jesus. Temptingly, the scribes and Pharisees haughtily told Jesus of the woman's wicked sin and insisted that she be stoned. To their great irritation, they found that Jesus seemed not to hear them, but continued writing on the ground with his finger. With anger rising within them, they repeatedly asked Jesus for his verdict. Pausing from his writing, Jesus stood up and answered them, "He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her." One by one, the dejected scribes and Pharisees left the temple. The woman still lay trembling on the ground. Knowing that the accusers had left and the woman was not condemned, Jesus said unto her gently, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." What tender mercy Jesus had for this adulteress. This same mercy can it be experienced by all those who come to Jesus Christ in humble contrition. He is ready and waiting to forgive. God hates the sin, but loves the sinner. Jesus Christ is the only solution to cleansing moral impurity and abortion from our society. Before our country can ever hope to reduce its number of abortions, it must first deal with moral impurity, abortion's instigator.